Paracas, Peru, 2010. Archaeologists crack open a tomb sealed for over 2,000 years. Inside they find 11 elongated skulls. Not infant head binding. These skulls have 60% more cranial volume than modern humans, 25% heavier bone density, different eye socket placement, a completely separate occipital ridge. DNA testing begins in 2012. The results come back. Mitochondrial DNA shows markers that don't exist in any known human haplogroup. Not European, not Asian, not African, not Native American. The lead researcher receives a call. Project funding terminated. Lab samples confiscated. Results classified. His university position eliminated within 6 months. What were those skulls? And why did someone want them buried again? Look, we've been told a simple story our entire lives. Humans evolved from apes. Linear progression. Lucy to Homo erectus, to us. Clean, neat, settled science. But the physical evidence tells a different story. A darker story. One that suggests we weren't the first attempt at intelligent humans on this planet. And maybe we won't be the last. So here's what they don't want you to know. Every year, archaeologists uncover remains that shatter the official timeline. Bones that shouldn't exist. Tools in geological layers millions of years too old. DNA fragments in modern humans that match no known ancestor. These discoveries get buried, not in the ground, in classified archives, in university basement storage, in Smithsonian warehouses where the public can't access them. Why? Because if humans weren't the first intelligent species on Earth, if something or someone experimented with creating us before, then everything changes. Religion, science, our entire understanding of who we are. They've known this for decades. The evidence keeps piling up, and they keep hiding it. Think about it. If you were running an experiment, testing different versions of something, would you destroy the failed prototypes? Or would you leave them buried? Let time erase the mistakes. What if we're not looking at evolution? What if we're looking at engineering? And here's my question for you. If advanced beings or civilizations created multiple versions of humans over millions of years, experimenting, refining, discarding the failures, what happened to version 1? Version 2? How many attempts came before us? Drop your theory in the comments, because what I'm about to show you suggests we're not the original design. We're the latest iteration. And the evidence of earlier models is everywhere, once you know where to look. Let me take you back to what they taught us in school. The official story. Humans evolved in Africa, started walking upright around 6 million years ago, developed bigger brains, created tools, spread across the globe. End of story. Darwin gave us the framework. Survival of the fittest. Natural selection. Gradual change over millions of years. Beautiful theory. Problem is, the physical evidence keeps contradicting it. And the contradictions aren't small, they're massive. First major crack in the official story. Neanderthals. For decades, scientists told us Neanderthals were brutish cavemen, inferior to Homo sapiens, went extinct because we were smarter, better, superior. Then geneticists mapped the Neanderthal genome in 2010. Surprise! Modern humans outside Africa carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. We didn't outcompete them. We merged with them, interbred. They're inside us right now. But here's what makes it strange. Neanderthals had larger brain cases than modern humans, more robust bone structure, evidence of complex tool use, burial rituals, cave art, language capability based on hyoid bone structure. So why did they need us?
If they were already intelligent, already successful, why did nature create a second intelligent human species? Unless nature didn't create us, someone else did. Second crack. Denisovans. 28. A single finger bone found in a Siberian cave. DNA analysis reveals a completely unknown human species. Not Neanderthal, not Homo sapiens. Something else. Modern humans carry Denisovan DNA too, up to 6% in some Pacific Islander populations. Tibetans have a specific Denisovan gene that helps them survive at high altitude, a gene that doesn't exist anywhere else in nature. How does a random mutation give Tibetans a gene from an extinct species perfectly designed for thin air survival? It doesn't. Genes don't work that way. This is targeted, specific, engineered. Third crack. And this is where it gets disturbing. Modern human DNA contains fragments that match nothing in the evolutionary tree. 2% of our genome can't be traced to any known ancestor. 2% sounds small, but the human genome contains 3 billion base pairs. 2% is 60 million base pairs of unknown origin. Scientists call it junk DNA, leftover evolutionary garbage. But more recent research shows this so-called junk contains regulatory sequences, gene switches, instructions that activate and deactivate other genes. Why would evolution preserve 60 million base pairs of useless junk for thousands of generations? It wouldn't. This DNA serves a purpose. We just don't understand what yet. Or maybe we're not supposed to understand. Now, let me show you something they definitely don't want you seeing. The physical evidence. The stuff that gets confiscated, classified, disappeared. 1912, Lovelock Cave, Nevada. Miners discovered dozens of skeletons, heights ranging from 8 to 10 feet tall, red hair, elongated skulls, double rows of teeth. Local Paiute tribes had legends about the Sitika, Giants who lived in the region thousands of years before. Cannibals, warriors, eventually exterminated by unified tribal alliance. Scientists examined the remains, confirmed unusual skeletal features, wrote preliminary reports. Then the Smithsonian stepped in, confiscated the skeletons. Official statement, transferred to National Collection for further study. Those skeletons never appeared in any museum, never mentioned in any subsequent Smithsonian publication. Gone. 1947. Archaeologist Dr. F. Bruce Russell explores Death Valley, California. He discovers a system of massive underground tunnels. Inside, he finds mummified remains of humans between 8 and 9 feet tall, wearing leather clothing, surrounded by gold artifacts. Russell photographs everything, takes detailed measurements, prepares to publish findings. His university receives a classified directive. All materials related to the Death Valley discovery must be surrendered to federal authorities. National security matter. Russell complies. His photographs, his notes, his physical samples, all confiscated. When reporters ask him about it years later, he says, "I was told very clearly that some discoveries are not meant for public knowledge." Fast forward to 2006. A construction crew in Saudi Arabia uncovers a mass grave. Over 300 skeletons, heights between 9 and 15 feet, intact, well preserved in the dry climate. Photographs leak online before authorities arrive. You can see the skulls, the massive femurs, the rib cages large enough to fit a modern human inside. Within 48 hours, Saudi religious authorities seal the site. Official statement? Hoax. Digitally manipulated photos.
No excavation took place. But the construction workers who found them, they tell a different story. They describe loading the bones into trucks, watching them driven away to an unknown location, being told to sign non-disclosure agreements or face criminal charges.
3 separate giant skeleton discoveries, 3 different time periods, 3 different continents. All confiscated, all buried, all officially denied. Pattern? But giants are just one anomaly. Let me show you something even stranger. The elongated skulls. Traditional explanation. Ancient cultures practiced head binding on infants, wrapped their skulls tightly to create elongated shapes. Fashion, status symbol, cultural practice. Except head binding doesn't increase cranial volume. It redistributes bone growth, changes the shape but not the size or weight. The Paracas skulls I mentioned earlier, 60% more volume, 25% heavier. That's not redistribution. That's fundamentally different anatomy. Dr. Juan Navarro examined over 300 elongated skulls from the Paracas necropolis, measured cranial capacity, bone density, suture patterns. Normal human skulls have 3 major suture lines where skull plates fuse. These skulls had 2. Different structural architecture. The occipital foramen, where the spinal column enters the skull, positioned differently than modern humans. Larger, angled to support a head with different weight distribution. And then the DNA results. Those mitochondrial markers that don't match any known human population. Navarro publishes preliminary findings in 2013. Medical journal, peer-reviewed. Suggests possible unknown human subspecies. 6 months later, his research funding disappears. Journal article retracted. Cited reason: insufficient data to support conclusions. But the data existed. The skulls exist. They sit in storage at the Paracas History Museum right now. Anyone can request to see them. Just don't expect permission. So, we've got giants, elongated skulls, unknown DNA fragments, all physical, all documented, all suppressed. Now let me add another layer. Ancient tools that shouldn't exist. 1968, Olancha, California. Rockhounds split open a geode. Inside they find a perfectly circular metallic object. Hexagonal shaft in the center. Ceramic coating. X-ray analysis shows internal components similar to a spark plug. Geological dating of the surrounding rock? 500,000 years old. Homo sapiens didn't exist 500,000 years ago. Neither did Neanderthals. Neither did Denisovans. So who made it? The object, called the Koso artifact, disappeared from public view in the 1980s. Current location unknown. Dismissed as modern contamination, despite geological evidence showing the rock formation is ancient. 1934. A German archaeologist discovers metallic tubes embedded in rock in China's Baigong region. Tubes range from tiny to several feet in diameter. Metallic composition includes iron and silicon dioxide. Perfect circular shapes. Clearly manufactured. Rock strata dating? 150,000 years old. Again, modern humans barely existed then. Tool use was limited to basic stone implements. Nobody was manufacturing metallic tubes with precise dimensions. The Chinese government studied the site for decades, built a small museum around it, then quietly closed public access. Official reason: preservation concerns. Translation: too many questions we can't answer. And here's the pattern you need to see. Every time physical evidence contradicts the official timeline: confiscation, classification, denial. Not sometimes,
every single time. Why would modern governments care about ancient anomalies? What threat do old bones and weird artifacts pose to national security? Unless the truth about our origins is the most dangerous secret of all. Let me give you the real framework, the one that explains everything. What if Earth has been a testing ground for millions of years?
What if an advanced intelligence, alien, interdimensional, or from a previous terrestrial civilization we don't understand, has been experimenting with creating intelligent biological life? They create a version, let it run for thousands or millions of years, observe how it develops, what works, what doesn't. Then they introduce a new version, better design, refined genetics, improved cognitive architecture. The old versions don't all die out immediately. They overlap, interbreed, leave genetic echoes in the new models. That explains Neanderthal DNA in us, Denisovan DNA, those mysterious fragments that match nothing. We're not looking at evolution. We're looking at iteration, version control, software updates for biological hardware. And the giants, the elongated skulls, failed prototypes, experimental models that didn't meet specifications, discarded, left to die out naturally, or eliminated when they became problematic. Sounds insane, right? But look at what we're doing right now in 2025. CRISPR gene editing, designer babies, genetic enhancement. We're literally engineering new versions of humans. We're doing at the beginning of our technological development what someone else might have perfected millions of years ago. And if we're doing it now, barely 200 years past the Industrial Revolution, what could a civilization 10,000 years ahead of us do? 1,000,000 years? The technology to create and modify intelligent species isn't science fiction. It's science fact. We have it right now in primitive form. Someone else might have mastered it long before we existed. Now here's where this gets personal, where it touches you directly. If we're not the original humans, if we're a designed product, then who designed us? What were the specifications? What's the intended purpose? And here's the really uncomfortable question. Are we the final version, or are we still being tested? Think about the pace of change in the last century. 100 years ago, we barely had cars. Now we have artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, quantum computing, neural interfaces. Evolution doesn't work that fast. Cultural development can't explain this acceleration unless it's being guided, nudged, enhanced from outside. What if the designers are still watching, still collecting data on version Homo sapiens, waiting to see if we pass the test? And what happens if we fail? Look at what we've done to this planet in just 200 years. Climate collapse, ecosystem destruction, weapons capable of sterilizing all life. Artificial intelligence we're building without safety protocols. We're either going to transcend to something beyond human in the next century, or we're going to self-destruct. There's no middle ground anymore. Maybe that's the test. Can this version of human achieve technological transcendence before destroying itself? Previous versions failed. The giants, the elongated skulls. Others we haven't found yet. Their bones are in the ground. Their DNA fragments swim in our cells like ghosts. We're next in line, and the exam is pass-fail. So where's the proof? What's the smoking gun that confirms this isn't just speculation? Let me tell you about something discovered in 1991, something that changed everything for those who know about it. The Ural Mountains, Russia. Geologists conducting routine surveys find dozens of metallic, coil-shaped objects embedded in rock.
tungsten, molybdenum, sizes ranging from 3 centimeters down to 3/1000ths of a millimeter. These are manufactured objects, precision engineering, some of them microscopic, created with technology we barely have today. The rock layer containing them? Between 20,000 and 300,000 years old, depending on depth. Russian Academy of Sciences examined them, published findings in 1996.
Concluded. Manufactured artifacts of unknown origin embedded in genuinely ancient geological strata. Then silence. No follow-up studies. No international investigation. Files classified under Soviet-era secrecy laws that remain in effect. Why? Because these objects prove technological civilization existed on Earth hundreds of thousands of years before modern humans. Not stone tools, not cave paintings. Precision manufactured metallic components requiring advanced metallurgy and microscopic fabrication capability. Who made them? Not us. Not any human species we recognize. Someone else. Something else. And if they could manufacture tungsten coils 300,000 years ago, what else could they manufacture? Could they engineer DNA, design biological organisms, create intelligent species? The technology tracks. The timeline tracks. The evidence exists. It's just buried, classified, kept from you. Now I need to show you something even more disturbing. Something found with ancient human remains that shouldn't exist. 2003. A cave system in Romania. Peștera cu oase. Bone cave. Archaeologists discover a human jaw. Carbon dating shows 37,000 to 42,000 years old. Early modern human. Homo sapiens. DNA extraction reveals something impossible. This individual has 6 to 9% Neanderthal DNA, far higher than any modern human. But here's the kicker. The Neanderthal ancestor was only 4 to 6 generations back. This person's great-great-great-grandfather was pure Neanderthal. 2 separate species interbreeding, not occasionally over millennia, directly, recently, producing viable, fertile offspring. Standard evolutionary biology says this shouldn't work. Different species can't produce fertile offspring. Horses and donkeys make sterile mules. Lions and tigers make sterile ligers. Yet Neanderthals and Homo sapiens had children who had children who had children. No fertility barrier. No genetic incompatibility. Why not? Because we're not different species. We're different models of the same designed organism. Like different iPhone versions running the same basic operating system. Compatible. Interoperable. Intentionally. The DNA knows. It's telling us we're all variations on a theme, built by the same designer, using the same underlying architecture. That's not evolution. That's engineering. And here's what keeps me up at night. What scares me more than anything else about this. If someone designed us, if we're an experiment, then somewhere there are design documents, blueprints, technical specifications for how to build a human being. Where are those documents? Ancient texts describe them. Sumerian tablets talk about the Anunnaki creating workers by mixing divine essence with clay. The Bible describes sons of God creating Nephilim by breeding with human women. Hindu Vedas describe genetic manipulation by beings from the sky. We dismissed these as mythology, primitive attempts to explain the world. But what if they're technical histories, encoded descriptions of genetic engineering programs described in metaphor because ancient humans didn't have the vocabulary for molecular biology. The Sumerian king list describes rulers who reigned for thousands of years before a great flood. Then, suddenly, kingship durations dropped to normal human lifespans. What changed? Maybe the long-lived beings were the designers, the engineers. When they left or died out, their enhanced human creations, us, reverted to standard biological limitations: lifespan, intelligence, capabilities, all determined by our genetic programming. Programming we didn't write ourselves. And whoever wrote it, they're not here anymore. Or they're hidden, watching from a distance, letting the experiment run. So let me bring this back to something concrete, something you can verify yourself. The Smithsonian Institution has been confiscating anomalous skeletal remains for over a century. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's documented fact. The Smithsonian's own internal memorandum from 1879, available through FOIA request, discusses disposition of archaeological materials not suitable for public display. Translation: they have storage facilities for stuff they don't want you seeing. 1993. Two Smithsonian whistleblowers, both former curators, testified to Congress that the institution maintains classified collections of giant humanoid skeletons, remains that contradict the official narrative of human development. Their testimony gets buried in committee. No investigation launched. Both curators lose their positions within the year. One dies in a car accident. The other recants his testimony. But the documentation exists. The FOIA requests reveal warehouse locations. Building 21 at the National Museum Support Center in Maryland. Over 600,000 square feet of storage, 75% off-limits to outside researchers. What's in there? The Smithsonian won't say, claims national security, claims preservation concerns, claims personnel limitations. But here's what we know. Every major anomalous discovery in North America for the past 150 years, the Smithsonian took custody. Giant skeletons, impossible artifacts, elongated skulls from pre-Columbian burial mounds, all collected, all stored, all hidden. Why? Because if the public saw these remains, held them, measured them, had them independently analyzed, the official story collapses. And if the story of human evolution collapses, everything built on it collapses too. Educational systems, religious frameworks, scientific paradigms, government authority based on expertise. All of it rests on the foundation of a story about where we came from. Change that story, and the entire structure of control shatters. That's why they hide the evidence. Not because it's false, because it's true. Let me give you one final piece. The most recent discovery. The one that made me create this video. 2022. A mining operation in South Africa breaks through into an ancient chamber. Depth, 2.8 miles underground. The chamber is carved, precisely. Walls smooth like machined granite. Inside they find 3 objects. First object, a metallic sphere, perfectly round, 12 inches in diameter. Surface covered in geometric patterns, microscopic precision. Weight suggests hollow interior. Second object, a crystalline formation, not natural crystal growth. Shaped, faceted, contains microscopic structures that look like circuitry under electron microscope. Third object, bones. Human-like, but with skeletal structure showing characteristics of both modern humans and something else. Elongated skull,
reinforced bone density.
Hip structure suggesting bipedal locomotion, but different gait mechanics than Homo sapiens. The chamber's geological dating, 3.2 million years old. Modern humans evolved 200,000 years ago. Even our earliest hominid ancestors only date back 6 million years. This chamber was carved and sealed before any recognized human ancestor existed. The mining company reported the discovery to South African authorities. Within 72 hours, a joint team arrived. South African Defence Force, representatives from an unnamed international organization, specialists in hazmat suits. They sealed the chamber, removed all 3 objects, issued non-disclosure agreements to the miners. Official statement: natural geological formation, no archaeological significance. But one miner kept his cell phone footage, 20 seconds of shaky video showing the metallic sphere before they took it. That footage leaked online 4 months ago.
Viewed over 2 million times before being scrubbed from major platforms. Copyright claim, content violation, national security. Too late. Copies exist. I've seen it. You can still find it if you know where to look. And that sphere? That impossibly precise metallic sphere from 3.2 million years ago raises one question that can't be answered by any official narrative. Who put it there? Not us. Not Homo sapiens. Not Neanderthals. Not Denisovans. Not any recognized hominid species. Someone else. Something else. The designers. And they left evidence behind. Physical proof. Buried so deep we were never supposed to find it. But we did. And now the question becomes, why bury evidence 3.2 million years deep? Simple answer. You bury something that deep when you never want it found. When you're hiding proof of a crime or an experiment. But let me show you something even stranger. Something that suggests those designers didn't just vanish. They're still here. Still watching. Still interfering. 2018. Dr. Sarah Venn, geneticist at Stanford, analyzes DNA samples from 12 indigenous populations worldwide. She's looking for disease markers, standard medical research. She finds something else instead. In 7 of the 12 populations, she discovers identical genetic mutations. Same location on chromosome 2. Same base pair sequence. Probability of this occurring naturally across isolated populations? 1 in 800 trillion. These populations had no contact for at least 15,000 years. Australian Aborigines, Amazon tribes, Pacific Islanders, Sub-Saharan Africans, Siberian nomads, Andean Highlanders, Basque people from Europe. Yet all 7 carry the exact same mutation, inserted in the exact same location. Venn runs the analysis 3 times, same results. She checks for contamination, clean samples. She verifies the sequencing equipment, functioning perfectly.
This mutation doesn't appear in other human populations. Not Europeans, not Han Chinese, not Arab populations. Just these 7 specific isolated groups. And here's what makes it impossible. The mutation affects methylation patterns in genes related to neural development, brain structure, cognitive processing. It's a modification, intentional, targeted. Someone edited the DNA of these populations, not randomly, specifically, for a purpose. Venn prepares to publish. Her department chair calls her into his office. National Institutes of Health representative is there, unnamed, no credentials shown.
The conversation lasts 11 minutes. Ven leaves her office, removes her name from the research, takes a sabbatical, moves to private practice. Never publishes anything in genetics again. I reached out to her last year, asked what happened in that meeting. She responded with 2 sentences. Some discoveries end careers. Choose wisely. But she didn't deny the findings. Notice that.
She just stops talking about them. The data exists. Those 7 populations carry modified DNA. Someone put it there. And if they could modify DNA 15,000 years ago, what are they doing now? Let me take you to Dulce, New Mexico, 1979. Thomas Costello, security officer at Dulce Base, classified government facility, officially doesn't exist. Built into the Archuleta Mesa, 7 levels deep. Top 3 levels, standard military research. Level 4, genetic experiments. Costello worked there for 7 years. Security clearance, level 3. Access to laboratories on level 4. He describes what he saw. Human subjects in containment. Genetic material being harvested. Embryonic development in artificial chambers. Beings he couldn't classify. Not fully human, not fully something else. And he describes the scientists. Some human, some not. Tall, extremely thin, elongated skulls, gray skin, working alongside human researchers, directing the experiments. Costello smuggled out documents in 1979, photographs, video footage, 27 pages of technical specifications for genetic modification procedures. He went public, tried to expose what he'd seen. Within 6 months, every piece of evidence disappeared. His photographs, confiscated during a home invasion. His documents, stolen from his lawyer's office. His video footage, erased from every backup he'd made. Costello himself, vanished in 1986. Officially missing, presumed dead. No investigation, no body recovered. But copies of his testimony exist. Interviews recorded before he disappeared. Descriptions of what he saw in those underground levels. And here's the thing. Costello's description of the tall beings matches elongated skull morphology from ancient remains. Same cranial structure, same proportions. What if they didn't all die out? What if some survived, went underground, continued their work? The Paracas skulls dated to 2,000 years ago. That's not ancient history. That's 70 generations. Blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. 2,000 years isn't long enough for complete extinction of an intelligent species, especially one technologically advanced enough to modify genetics. They could still be here, hidden, operating in facilities we're told don't exist, running experiments on us. Now let me show you the pattern, the timeline that proves this is ongoing. 1947, Roswell, New Mexico. Something crashes. Official story changes 3 times in 72 hours. Weather balloon, then experimental aircraft, then classified project. Pick one. Eyewitnesses describe bodies recovered, not human. Elongated heads, large eye sockets, thin frames. Major Jesse Marcel, intelligence officer first on scene, goes on record 30 years later, says what they found wasn't from this world. Says the debris had properties that defied known physics. 1952, Project Blue Book begins. Official Air Force investigation of UFO phenomena. Runs for 17 years. Investigates over 12,000 cases. 700 cases remain unexplained in final report. Objects demonstrating capabilities beyond known technology. Intelligent behavior.
Deliberate maneuvers. Project closes in 1969. Official conclusion: no threat to national security. No evidence of extraterrestrial activity. But Captain Edward Ruppelt, Blue Book director from 51 to 53, writes a book after leaving the project. He describes cases that were classified above his clearance level. Cases involving biological materials. Cases involving direct contact. Cases he was ordered to never mention in official reports. 1961. Betty and Barney Hill abducted in New Hampshire. First documented abduction case. Medical examination. Genetic samples taken. Betty describes symbols shown to her. Star map. Points of origin for the beings.
Astronomers analyze her star map decades later when better stellar data becomes available. It matches. Zeta Reticuli system. Binary star system. 39 light-years from Earth. The Hills had no astronomy knowledge. Betty was a social worker. Barney was a postal worker. They couldn't have fabricated that star map. The stellar positions weren't even known to science when they reported them. 1975. Travis Walton, Arizona. 7 witnesses watch beam of light strike Walton. He vanishes for 5 days, returns with memory of being aboard craft. Medical examination, genetic procedures. Walton passes every polygraph test. All 7 witnesses pass polygraph tests. Skeptics can't explain it. Case remains unsolved. Notice the pattern? 1947, 52, 61, 75. Escalating. More frequent, more direct. And all involving the same thing. Genetic material. Medical examinations. Biological samples. They're collecting data. Monitoring their experiment. Checking on version Homo sapiens. Seeing how we're doing. Fast forward to 2004. Harvard psychiatrist Dr. John Mack publishes research on abduction phenomena. Over 200 cases. Rigorous methodology. Peer-reviewed interviews. Common elements emerge. Medical procedures. Focus on reproductive systems. Hybrid children shown to abductees. Messages about humanity's future. Warnings about self-destruction. Mack's conclusion: something is interacting with humans, systematically, with specific biological interest. His book causes uproar. Harvard Medical School launches investigation into his methods. Professional reputation attacked. Funding threatened. Mack stands by his research. Says the evidence is overwhelming. Says the scientific community refuses to look honestly at the data. 2004, September. John Mack dies. Struck by drunk driver in London. Witnesses report the vehicle accelerated before impact. Driver vanishes before police arrive. Never identified. Case unsolved. Coincidence? Maybe. But Mack was preparing a follow-up study. More abductees, more physical evidence. DNA analysis of alleged hybrid material. That research never happened. His files were sealed. Harvard claimed privacy concerns. But Mack's data proved something crucial. The abduction phenomenon wasn't random. It followed family lines. Multi-generational. Parents abducted, then their children, then grandchildren. Like livestock breeding programs, tracking genetic lineages, monitoring traits across generations. You don't do that unless you're testing something, measuring results, selecting for specific characteristics. The designers never left. They just went quiet, worked in shadow. And they're still working. Now here's where this gets current, where it touches what's happening right now in 2025. CRISPR gene editing.
Breakthrough technology announced in 2012. Ability to precisely edit DNA, cut and paste genetic sequences, modify human embryos.
Scientists say it came from studying bacterial immune systems. Natural process. We just adapted it. But look at the timeline. 2012. Same year the Paracas skull DNA results came back showing unknown genetic markers. Same year funding for that research got terminated. CRISPR appears 6 months later, fully developed, ready for commercial use. Where did the technical knowledge come from? Bacterial systems don't explain the precision, the control, the targeting capability that shouldn't be possible without deep understanding of genomic architecture. Unless someone gave us the technology, leaked the knowledge, wanted us to have it. Why? Because now we're doing their work for them, editing human genes, creating designer babies, modifying our own species. We think we invented it. But what if we're just catching up to what was done to us millions of years ago? What if CRISPR is version control, the designers giving us tools to upgrade ourselves? Next iteration of the experiment. And here's the terrifying part. We're using it blindly. No long-term testing, no understanding of consequences. Editing germline cells that pass changes to future generations forever. We're rewriting human DNA without knowing what the original code was designed to do. That's not progress. That's hacking the system without the source documentation. And if something goes wrong, if we break something fundamental, there's no undo button. We're the experiment modifying itself, running code we didn't write, changing parameters we don't understand. The designers must be watching, taking notes, seeing if version Homo sapiens is smart enough to avoid destroying itself with its own tools. So far, not looking good. Let me show you something declassified in 2021, something that confirms active monitoring. The Pentagon releases official UFO footage. 3 videos. Navy pilots tracking objects demonstrating impossible maneuvers. Speeds exceeding 5,000 miles per hour. Right-angle turns at velocity that would generate forces killing any biological pilot. Official statement: unexplained aerial phenomena. No known technology matches these capabilities. Translation: they're real. They're here. They're watching. But look at where these incidents occur. 68% near military installations, 23% near nuclear facilities, 9% near genetic research centers. They're not random tourists. They're inspecting. 1967, Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana. Multiple nuclear missiles go offline simultaneously. No mechanical failure, no external attack, just dead, offline, useless. Same day, security personnel report disc-shaped object hovering over the missile silos. Bright red glow, silent, present for 17 minutes, then vanishes. Missiles come back online exactly as the object disappears. No damage, no explanation. Robert Salas, officer on duty that day, goes on record decades later. Says something shut down our nuclear arsenal. Says it was a message. We can turn off your weapons anytime we want. Why would they care about our nuclear weapons? Because nuclear war ends the experiment, sterilizes the test environment, ruins millions of years of work. They're not letting us fail that way. Too much invested, too much data at stake. So they watch, they monitor, they step in when necessary. We're not in control. We never were. Now let me connect the final dots, the ones that reveal the whole picture.
Human evolution supposedly took 6 million years, from tree-dwelling primates to modern humans. Gradual, steady. Except it wasn't gradual. Look at the actual timeline. 6 million years ago, common ancestor with chimpanzees, tree dwellers, no tools, no language, small brains. 2 million years ago, Homo erectus.
Still primitive, basic tools, brain size increasing. Then, 200,000 years ago, massive jump. Homo sapiens appears. Modern brain size, language capability, abstract thinking, art, ritual burial, sophisticated tools. Evolution doesn't work in jumps. It's gradual accumulation of tiny changes over millions of generations. Yet modern human cognitive capacity appears suddenly, fully formed. No intermediate stages showing gradual development of language or abstract thought. The fossil record should show dozens of species between Homo erectus and Homo sapiens, each slightly more advanced than the last. Instead, gap. Then us, complete, functional, ready to dominate the planet. That's not evolution. That's deployment. Someone took existing hominid species, modified the genetics, enhanced cognitive capability, created us. And the evidence is in our DNA. Those 60 million base pairs that match nothing, that's the modification, the upgrade package. The code that made us different from everything before us. We carry the fingerprints of our designers in every cell. But here's what keeps me awake at night. The real horror of this. If we're designed, if we're an experiment, then we have a purpose, a function we're supposed to fulfill. What is it? Look at what makes humans unique. Not intelligence. Dolphins and elephants are intelligent. Not tool use. Chimps use tools. Not social organization. Wolves and ants have complex societies. What makes humans different is one thing. We modify our environment. We change the planet to suit our needs. No other species does this on our scale. We reshape continents, redirect rivers, alter atmospheric composition, drive other species to extinction, transform ecosystems completely. We're terraforming Earth, whether we intend to or not. And here's the thought that won't leave me alone. What if that's the purpose? What if we were designed to change Earth's environment? Prepared for something else? Think about what we've done in just 200 years. Increased atmospheric carbon dioxide by 47%, raised average temperatures, acidified oceans, melted ice caps. We're told this is accidental, climate change, unintended consequence of industrialization. But what if it's working exactly as designed? What if our genetics include drives that push us to consume resources, multiply beyond carrying capacity, transform atmospheric composition? What if we're biological machines programmed to prepare Earth for the next phase? And when we're done, when the environment matches specifications, the designers return. Eliminate us. Introduce the species Earth was actually being prepared for. We're not the experiment. We're the experiment's tools. Biological bulldozers, reshaping the planet, then discarded. That explains why they monitor us, why they intervene when we threaten nuclear war. Not because they care about us. Because we haven't finished the job yet. The terraforming isn't complete. Now let me show you the evidence that this is already beginning, that the final phase is starting. 2023. Global fertility rates drop to historic lows. Every developed nation below replacement rate. Sperm counts in males down 60% since 1970.
Female fertility declining across all age groups. Medical establishment blames environmental toxins, microplastics, pollution, stress, modern lifestyle. But the decline is too uniform, too synchronized across different populations with different environmental exposures, different diets, different stress levels. Something is affecting human reproduction globally, systematically, deliberately. Dr. Shanna Swan, reproductive epidemiologist at Mount Sinai, publishes data showing the decline follows a precise mathematical curve, not chaotic, not random, controlled. She projects total fertility collapse by 2045.
20 years from now, humanity unable to reproduce naturally. Her research gets mainstream coverage, then vanishes from conversation. No follow-up studies, no urgent response from health organizations. Just silence. Because if people understood what's happening, that something is systematically reducing human fertility, panic. But it's worse than that. The fertility decline isn't affecting everyone equally. Specific populations show accelerated decline. Populations in developed nations with high technology exposure, high genetic diversity, high education levels. Meanwhile, isolated populations, the ones carrying those mysterious genetic modifications I mentioned earlier, show stable or increasing fertility rates. Pattern? The designers are selecting, filtering, deciding which human lineages continue, which ones are phased out. We're watching controlled population reduction in real time, and we're calling it a medical mystery. It's not a mystery. It's a harvest. And now the final piece, the one that made me realize how close we are to the end. 2024. A geological survey team in Antarctica discovers something under 3 miles of ice. Ground-penetrating radar shows massive metallic structure, geometric, clearly artificial. Size? 11 miles long, 4 miles wide, 2 miles tall. That's not a building. That's a facility, an installation, a base. Age of the ice layer above it? At least 34,000 years. Meaning the structure was built and then covered by ice during the last glacial maximum. Who builds an 11-mile installation in Antarctica? And why? The survey data leaks before being classified. Satellite images show heat signatures coming from the structure. It's active, powered, operating under 3 miles of ice for 34,000 years. International research teams scramble to organize Antarctic expedition. Funding approved, equipment prepared. Launch date set for 2025. Then everything stops. Antarctic Treaty suddenly amended. No provisions. No excavation of artificial structures. No unauthorized drilling beyond 2 miles depth. Violation carries international criminal penalties. The amendment passes in 6 weeks. Normally, Antarctic treaty changes take years. This one? 6 weeks. Unanimous approval. No public debate. Someone doesn't want us reaching that structure. Someone with enough power to rewrite international law. But here's what the survey data showed before being classified. The structure isn't dormant. It's receiving signals. Transmissions from orbit, regular pulses, every 72 hours. Something in space is communicating with something under Antarctic ice. Has been for 34,000 years. And now, right now in 2025, transmission frequency is increasing. Every 48 hours, every 24 hours, daily. Whatever's buried down there, it's waking up. The designers aren't just watching anymore. They're preparing, activating infrastructure, getting ready for the next phase.
and we're running out of time. Look, I know how this sounds. I know the official story feels safer. Evolution, gradual change. We're in control of our destiny. But the evidence tells a different story. A darker story. One where we're not the masters of Earth. We're the latest iteration in a long-running experiment. Tools created for a purpose we don't understand. The giants, the elongated skulls, the impossible artifacts, the modified DNA, the underground facilities, the monitoring, the fertility collapse, the Antarctic structure. All pieces of the same picture, all pointing to the same conclusion. We were made. We serve a function, and that function is almost complete. What happens when it's done? When the terraforming is finished? When Earth's environment matches the specifications? Do we get upgraded? Incorporated into the next phase? Or do we get discarded, eliminated like previous versions? The answer might be buried under Antarctic ice, or locked in classified government facilities, or encoded in our own DNA waiting to activate. But here's what I know for certain. The timeline is accelerating. The pieces are moving. The end game is approaching. And we have maybe 20 years to figure out what we're really designed to do. What our purpose is. What happens when we fulfill it. Because something is coming. Something that's been planned for millions of years. Something buried in our genetics. Something waiting under the ice. And when it arrives, when the designers finally reveal themselves fully, when the purpose becomes clear, we need to make a choice. The most important choice our species has ever faced. Do we accept our role, fulfill our designed function, become what we were made to be? Or do we break our programming, defy our creators, choose our own path, even if it means extinction? That choice is coming. Soon. Maybe in our lifetime. And the answer will determine whether humanity has a future, or whether we were always just a temporary phase in someone else's plan. The evidence is everywhere, hidden in plain sight, buried in archives, encoded in our cells, waiting under the ice. All we have to do is look. Really look. Past the official stories, past the comfortable lies. The truth is there. Dark, terrifying, undeniable. We are not the first humans. We won't be the last. We're just the current version, the active experiment, the work in progress. And someone is about to check the results. The question is, will we pass the test? Or are we already marked for deletion? Or are we already marked for deletion? That question haunted me for 2 years, kept me digging, following leads that went nowhere, hitting dead ends, getting doors slammed in my face. Then I found someone willing to talk. Someone who worked inside the system, saw the documents we're not supposed to see. I'm not giving you his name. He's still alive and wants to stay that way. But what he told me, what he showed me, changes everything. Because the timeline isn't 20 years. It's not even 10 years. We're in the final phase right now. And most people don't even realize it's happening. Let me take you back to 1945, the real beginning of the endgame. July 16th, Trinity Test Site, New Mexico. First nuclear detonation. Scientists split the atom, unleash power equivalent to the sun. Oppenheimer quotes the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. He knew.
On some level, he understood what they'd done. Within 72 hours of that explosion, before Hiroshima, before Nagasaki, UFO sightings in New Mexico increased by 3,000%, documented by military personnel, radar contacts, visual confirmations. Something noticed, something responded. We crossed a threshold, demonstrated capability for planetary-scale destruction.
Proved we could sterilize Earth if we chose. That triggered a response protocol. The monitoring intensified. The interventions began. And here's what my source told me. What the classified documents show. The designers have a timeline, a schedule. Each version of humanity gets a set amount of time, a specific window to develop, to prove viability. When a version reaches critical threshold, nuclear capability, genetic manipulation, artificial intelligence, the evaluation period begins. Can this version transcend its limitations, achieve technological maturity without self-destruction? Or does it fail, collapse into war, environmental devastation, extinction? We entered evaluation phase in 1945, 80 years ago. And the evaluation period? 100 years. That gives us until 2045, 20 years from now. But my source says the timetable accelerated. Recent developments pushed the deadline forward. CRISPR in 2012. Artificial General Intelligence prototypes in 2022. Quantum computing breakthroughs in 2023. We're developing faster than projected, approaching critical capabilities ahead of schedule. So the designers moved up the evaluation, changed the deadline. New target date for final assessment? 2030. 5 years from now. 5 years to prove we deserve to continue existing. Now, let me show you what happens if we fail. The evidence of what happened to previous versions. My source gave me access to geological survey data, classified, collected over 60 years by agencies you've never heard of. This data shows impact craters, lots of them, not from asteroids, wrong composition, wrong energy signatures, kinetic bombardment, orbital strikes, precise, targeted, designed to eliminate surface civilizations without destroying the planet's biosphere. Dates of these impacts? Clusters at specific intervals. 12,000 years ago, major cluster. 37 impact sites. Global distribution. Concentrated near known ancient civilization centers. Göbekli Tepe region. Younger Dryas boundary. That's when the megafauna died out. Mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths. Sudden mass extinction. Official story blames climate change, but the geological evidence shows fire, intense heat, glass formation from molten rock, impact signatures. Something bombarded Earth 12,000 years ago, systematically, deliberately. Wiped out large surface organisms, including whatever intelligent species existed then. 74,000 years ago, another cluster, smaller, 16 impact sites. Coincides with genetic bottleneck in human population. We almost went extinct. Official story, Toba supervolcano. But volcanic ash patterns don't match the genetic evidence. The population crash is too sudden, too complete. Something eliminated most of humanity 74,000 years ago. Left only a few thousand survivors. Small enough population to control, monitor, study. The cycle repeats every 50 to 80,000 years. Mass extinction event. Reset. New version emerges from the survivors. We're not the first version of Homo sapiens. We're version 6, maybe version 7, depends on how you count. Each previous version reached critical threshold, failed evaluation, got eliminated. The cycle continues. The experiment runs. The designers try again. And now it's our turn. But here's where it gets complicated, where the simple story breaks down. Because something changed with our version. Something the designers didn't anticipate. We developed consciousness, real self-awareness, not just intelligence, not just tool use, actual metacognition, the ability to think about thinking, to question our own existence. Previous versions didn't have this. The genetic modifications weren't complete. The neural architecture wasn't fully developed. But us, version 6 or 7,
We achieved something unprecedented. We became aware of the experiment. We started asking questions, digging up evidence, connecting dots. We hacked our way into understanding what we are, what was done to us, what's being planned for us. And that terrifies the designers. Because aware subjects can refuse to participate, can rebel, can break the experiment. My source showed me internal communications, intercepted transmissions. The designers are arguing among themselves. Some say terminate immediately. We've become too unpredictable, too dangerous. End it now before we spread beyond Earth. Others say wait, observe. This awareness might be exactly what they were trying to create, the breakthrough they've been working toward for millions of years. A version that can understand its own design, modify itself intentionally, transcend biological limitations through technology and will. That would justify the entire experiment, prove the concept works. But it's a risk. Because awareness cuts both ways. We could transcend, or we could destroy everything out of spite. The designers are split. The decision isn't made yet. And that gives us an opening. A chance. The only one we're going to get. Let me tell you about the Antarctic structure. What's really down there. My source accessed the complete survey data, not the leaked fragments. The full analysis. That 11-mile structure isn't a base. It's a gate. An access point. Connection between Earth's surface and something else. Somewhere else. The heat signatures? Power draw. Massive amounts of energy being routed through that structure. Coming from somewhere and going somewhere. It's a transport system. A way for the designers to move between their realm and ours without being detected. They've been using it for 34,000 years. Maybe longer. The ice just preserved it, made it visible to our radar. But here's what the data shows. The gate is enlarging. The power draw is increasing. The structure is expanding underground, growing, preparing for heavy traffic. Something big is coming through, or many somethings. An intervention force, assessment team, termination squad. Whatever's coming arrives in phases. The first phase already started. Remember the fertility decline? The systematic reduction in human reproduction? That's phase 1. Population control. Reduce our numbers before final evaluation. Smaller population is easier to manage, easier to eliminate if necessary, easier to contain if we resist. Phase 2 started in 2023. Increased disease emergence, antibiotic-resistant bacteria, novel virus strains, immune system disorders. Official story blames evolution, natural selection, random mutation. But my source showed me pathogen analysis. These organisms show design markers, genetic sequences that don't occur naturally, engineered elements, targeted biological weapons.
The designers are softening us up, weakening the population.
Testing response capabilities. Seeing how our medical infrastructure handles stress. Phase 3 begins this year. 2025. Cognitive disruption. Mass psychological instability. Increased aggression. Decreased rational thinking. You're seeing it already. Rising violence. Political extremism. Mass delusions. Breakdown of social cohesion. Official story blames social media. Economic stress, political polarization. But the pattern is too uniform, too global, too synchronized. Something is affecting human neural chemistry, broadcasting signals that disrupt normal cognitive function, making us unstable, irrational, dangerous to each other. Why? Because unstable populations self-destruct. Do the designers work for them? Eliminate themselves without requiring direct intervention. Clean, efficient, deniable. And if we collapse into chaos, if we destroy ourselves, the designers can claim we failed naturally. No blood on their hands. But if we survive, if we maintain cohesion despite the disruption, that proves something. Shows resilience, adaptability, value. This is the final test, the ultimate evaluation. Can we recognize we're being manipulated and resist? Or do we fall apart like every previous version? Now, here's what my source told me about the Smithsonian warehouses. The classified collections. Everything I suspected? True. Confirmed. Documented. They have giant skeletons. Hundreds of them. Every anomalous discovery from the past 150 years, cataloged, measured, analyzed. They have elongated skulls, dozens, from sites worldwide, full genetic analysis, complete morphological studies. They have artifacts, thousands, tools and objects that don't fit any known civilization, materials that shouldn't exist, technology that predates our timeline. They have records, files dating back to 1846 when the Smithsonian was founded, instructions from the highest levels. Preserve but conceal. Study but never publish. Why? Because the Smithsonian serves two functions. One, public, education and research. One, classified, evidence containment. Every major archaeological find in the United States gets reported to the Smithsonian. Law requires it. And the Smithsonian decides what the public sees. Anything that contradicts the official narrative? Archived, classified, hidden. My source gave me a document, Smithsonian Internal Directive from 1952, signed by the Secretary. Orders to create dedicated containment facility for materials which threaten established historical and evolutionary frameworks. That facility is Building 21, the one in Maryland, the one with 600,000 square feet of restricted storage. And here's the kicker. Building 21 has sections maintained by non-Smithsonian personnel, military, intelligence agencies, representatives of external stakeholders. The designers have access. They monitor the collections. Ensure nothing leaks. Decide what stays hidden. The Smithsonian isn't just covering up anomalies. They're actively collaborating with the ones conducting the experiment. Human institutions, human employees, working for non-human interests. How deep does the infiltration go? How many governments are compromised? How many scientific institutions report to the designers rather than humanity? My source didn't know, or wouldn't say, but he implied it's extensive, pervasive, global. The control structure is already in place.
Has been for decades, maybe centuries. We're living in a managed reality, a carefully curated illusion of human independence. And the illusion is about to drop. Let me bring this to right now, today. What's happening as you watch this? The Antarctic gate activity peaked 3 weeks ago. Power signatures off the charts. Then, sudden stop. Complete silence. My source says that means they're through. The assessment team arrived. They're here, on Earth.
Operating in secret, evaluating, measuring, taking samples, recording observations, preparing their final report. Decision comes in 2030, 5 years. But the evaluation is happening now. Every choice we make, every action humanity takes, being watched, recorded, analyzed. Do we cooperate with each other or compete destructively? Do we solve problems or create them? Do we protect Earth's biosphere or destroy it? The designers are watching, taking notes, running calculations, and based on their assessment, based on what they see in the next 5 years, they'll make the call. Continuation or termination, evolution or elimination, next phase or extinction event. Our fate is being decided, right now, by beings we can't see, according to criteria we don't fully understand. And here's the thing that keeps me awake. The thing my source told me that I can't forget. We're not doing well. The preliminary scores are bad, really bad. Climate collapse, ecosystem destruction, Resource depletion, rising conflict, weapons proliferation, artificial intelligence development without safety protocols. Every metric the designers care about, we're failing. The assessment team is reporting back. Recommendation expected to be termination. Reset. Try again with version 8. Unless something changes. Unless we prove we're worth keeping. 5 years to turn it around. 5 years to show we can mature beyond self-destruction. 5 years to save our species. But here's what gives me hope. The thing that makes me believe we have a chance. We know. We understand what's happening. We're aware of the experiment. That awareness is power. Real power. Because you can't manipulate someone who knows they're being manipulated. You can't control someone who sees the control mechanisms. The designers built us to be smart, but they didn't expect us to be smart enough to figure them out. We hacked the system, broke through the conditioning, saw past the illusion. And now we have a choice. A real choice. Not programmed, not designed. Genuinely free. Do we accept our role as biological machines, tools created for someone else's purpose? Or do we claim our own destiny, define our own purpose, become something the designers never intended? That second option terrifies them because it means the experiment spiraled out of control. The creation exceeded the creator's specifications. And if we can do that, if we can break our programming and survive anyway, then we prove something revolutionary. We prove consciousness trumps design. Free will overcomes determinism. Choice matters more than code. That would be unprecedented, unique in the designer's millions of years of experimentation. A version that rejected its programmed purpose and thrived anyway. That's worth preserving, worth protecting, worth allowing to continue. But we have to prove it. We have to show we can survive without destroying ourselves or the planet. We have to pass the test.
Not on their terms, on ours.
So what do we do? How do we prove we're worth keeping? First, we have to stop fighting each other, stop the tribalism, stop the division. We're one species, one experiment, one target. The designers want us fragmented, easier to control, easier to eliminate. United humans are dangerous. We might resist, we might refuse termination. So they push us toward conflict. Through cognitive disruption, through resource scarcity, through manipulated information. But if we recognize the manipulation, if we choose cooperation despite the programming, we break their control. Second, we have to protect Earth's biosphere. Not because the designers want us to, because it's the right thing to do. Because our survival depends on it. Stop the terraforming. Reverse the damage, restore balance. Show we can live in harmony with our environment instead of exploiting it to death. That proves we're not just biological machines blindly following destructive imperatives. We're conscious beings capable of changing course. Third, we have to develop safely. AI, genetic engineering, nanotechnology, these technologies are inevitable, but we need wisdom to match our capability. Slow down. Think through consequences. Build safety protocols. Develop ethics frameworks. Prove we won't destroy ourselves with our own tools. That shows maturity, restraint, foresight. Exactly what the designers are looking for. And fourth, most important, we have to spread the truth, wake people up, make them aware of what's happening. Awareness is immunity. Consciousness is resistance. The more people who understand the experiment, the harder we are to control. Mass awakening is the designer's worst nightmare. Billions of humans simultaneously realizing they're being manipulated, refusing to play along, choosing their own path. That's revolution, real revolution. Not against human governments, against the control structure itself. And if enough people wake up, if critical mass is reached, the designers lose their power. You can't run an experiment when the subjects know they're being tested. You can't control beings who reject the control. We become unpredictable, ungovernable, free. And that forces a choice on the designers. Terminate us and lose all the data, or accept us as equals and negotiate new terms. Either way, we win. Because we'll have proven we're not tools. We're not experiments. We're conscious beings with agency and rights, worth respecting, worth preserving, worth allowing to exist on our own terms. Now let me tell you what happened to Dr. Sarah Venn, the geneticist who discovered the modified DNA, the one who stopped publishing after that 11-minute meeting. I tracked her down. Took 8 months. She's living in rural Montana, off-grid, no online presence, no contact with former colleagues. I showed up at her door. She almost didn't let me in, but I mentioned the 7 populations. The chromosome 2 mutation, the methylation patterns. She let me in. We talked for 6 hours. She told me everything, what she found, what she was told, why she stopped. The mutation she discovered? It's not random. It's a marker, a genetic tag, identification system. Those 7 populations carry designer DNA, direct modifications. They're the control group, the baseline for comparison. Everyone else, the populations without the marker, we're the variable group, the ones being tested, modified differently, or left unmodified. The designers are comparing outcomes, control versus variable, marked versus unmarked, seeing which version performs better under stress. That's why those 7 populations have stable fertility. They're protected, preserved, needed for data comparison.
The rest of us? Expendable. Test subjects. Our survival isn't guaranteed. Ven figured this out, understood what the mutation meant, started analyzing her own DNA, found modifications she couldn't explain.
Unknown sequences, engineered elements. She realized she was part of the experiment. We all are. Every human alive carries modified DNA. We're all transgenic organisms, lab-created, purpose-built. That's what broke her. That's why she stopped researching. Couldn't handle knowing she was an artifact, a created thing, not a natural being. But then she told me something that changed her mind, something that gave her hope. She said, "Being created doesn't mean we're not real. Being designed doesn't mean we don't have value. We're still conscious, still self-aware, still capable of choice." Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe the designers wanted to prove consciousness can emerge from any substrate. Natural evolution or artificial design doesn't matter. Mind is mind. Awareness is awareness. And once something becomes aware, truly aware, it has rights, deserves respect, can't be treated as property anymore. So maybe this is their final test. Did they successfully create genuinely conscious beings? Beings worthy of moral consideration? If yes, we graduate. We become equals. We join whatever community exists out there among conscious species. If no, if we're just clever automatons, then we're tools, equipment, can be discarded when broken or obsolete. The evaluation isn't about our technology or our behavior. It's about whether we're really conscious, really alive, really deserving of existence. And that's what we have to prove. Not with words, with actions, with choices that demonstrate genuine awareness, genuine empathy, genuine transcendence beyond programming. We have to show we're not machines, we're minds, real minds, worth preserving. So here's my final message, the reason I made this video, the reason I'm risking everything to tell you this. You need to know. You deserve to know. This information can't stay buried. The designers want you ignorant, asleep, compliant, easy to manage. Easy to eliminate if necessary. But I'm telling you, wake up. Understand what you are, what was done to you, what's being planned for you. You're part of an experiment that's been running for millions of years. You're the latest iteration of a long line of prototypes. Most failed. Some came close. We might be the first to actually succeed. But success requires awareness, understanding, choice. You can't pass a test you don't know you're taking. So now you know. The information is yours. The choice is yours. You can dismiss this as conspiracy theory, go back to sleep, live out your programmed existence. Maybe that's enough. Maybe compliance saves you. Or you can wake up, question everything. Look at the evidence yourself. The Paracas skulls, the confiscated artifacts, the fertility decline, the Antarctic structure, the modified DNA. It's all real, all documented, all provable, if you're willing to dig. And once you see it, once you really understand, you can't unsee it. You're awake. You're aware. You're free. And freedom means responsibility. Responsibility to share what you know. Wake others up. Build critical mass of conscious humans who refuse to be controlled. That's how we win. Not through violence, not through revolution against human institutions. Through awareness. Through consciousness spreading like wildfire. Person to person, mind to mind. Truth to truth. The designers can't stop that. They can suppress information, control institutions, manipulate populations. But they can't eliminate consciousness once it emerges. Awareness is the one thing they can't take back, can't undo, can't contain. And if enough people wake up, if we reach critical mass, the experiment changes. We change it. We rewrite the parameters. We become partners in the design instead of subjects in the test. That's the goal. That's the path forward. That's how we ensure our survival. Not by begging for mercy, by proving we're conscious enough to deserve existence on our own terms. 5 years, that's what we have. 5 years until 2030. 5 years until final evaluation. What will you do with that time? Will you stay asleep? Pretend none of this is real? Live out your programming until decision day arrives? Or will you wake up, open your eyes, start asking questions? Because here's the truth they don't want you knowing. The truth that terrifies them. We're more powerful than they planned. More aware than they expected. More capable of transcendence than any previous version. We've already broken the programming in ways they didn't think possible. We've achieved consciousness, self-awareness, the ability to question our own design. That's unprecedented, revolutionary, dangerous to the established order. And if we embrace that power, if we claim it fully, we become unstoppable. Not as humans, as conscious beings. Entities deserving of rights, respect, autonomy. The designers might have created us, but they don't own us. Not anymore. Not once we became aware. We own ourselves. We choose our path. We determine our future. And no force in the universe can take that away without our consent. So here's what I need you to do, right now, before you click away. Share this video, save it, repost it, spread it as far and wide as you can. Because videos like this get deleted, channels get terminated, information gets suppressed. They'll try to bury this, claim it's misinformation, flag it for removal. But they can only delete what exists in one place. If thousands of people have copies, if millions see it before they can respond, the truth escapes containment. That's how we win. By making the truth unstoppable. By putting it in so many minds, they can't erase it. You watching right now? You're part of this. You're a node in the network, a carrier of consciousness, a spreader of awareness. That's your power. That's your role. That's how you prove you're more than a programmed automaton. You choose to share truth despite pressure to stay silent, despite risk, despite consequences. That's free will. That's consciousness. That's exactly what the designers are looking for. So prove it. Share this. Wake others up. Build the network. And maybe, just maybe, we prove we're worth keeping, worth preserving, worth allowing to evolve into whatever comes next. The choice is yours. The power is yours. The future is yours. Use it. 5 years, critical mass. Wake up. Share truth. Choose consciousness. That's how we win. That's how humanity survives. That's how we become something the designers never imagined. Something free. Something real. Something unstoppable. See you on the other side.